Welcome back to Approach the Climb, the podcast where we talk about real stories, strategies, and insights to help you on your personal climb to success. If you haven't already subscribed to our YouTube channel, please go and do that. That would mean the world to me. We are trying to hit 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year, and every single one of those counts. From learning hard work and determination at the young age of 14 while training MMA with his uncle Joey Beltran, to having his business closed down in 2020, to jumping full-time into content creation, Tony has an amazing story to share with us today, and I can't wait for him to share it with you. With over 1 million followers across all platforms, Tony shares with us how he was able to get to where he is today despite his past failures. If you're here listening to this podcast today, I want you to really soak this in because I think you're here for a reason. I want you to listen to Tony's story and find meaning in it for your life today. Whether you're between careers, you just got laid off from your job, you're recovering from an injury, you're trying to get back on your feet, or you feel like you're on top of the world, I know that the message Tony is bringing us today is going to help you right where you're at and bring value to your life. Make sure you like and share this podcast out, and also go follow Tony Romero on social media. I will have his links down below in the show notes. Thank you so much for listening today, and enjoy episode 8, Unshakeable Persistence. All right, Tony Romero, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, hello. Glad to be here.
Yeah, man, I'm excited to have you. I know it was kind of like a random conversation we had one day sitting in Discord, and I'm thankful for you willing to share a little bit about you and things that people may not know about you. And I think there's a lot of power in that, and people can get a lot from that, especially somebody like yourself who is very successful in the content creation space. So thank you for taking your valuable time to speak to our audience here.
No, I'm glad. I'm happy to be here too. Hopefully there's something that I share that will definitely help someone out, that might be, looking to get into content creation or, just in life in general. You know what I mean?
One of the things I always ask people before they come on the show, I have a big questionnaire that you filled out. Thank you for doing that.
Okay.
Just what's something interesting, about you? And you mentioned a relationship that you have, somebody in your family, an uncle who is Joey Beltran, who, for those of you that don't know, if you don't watch UFC or bare knuckle boxing or anything like that, Joey Beltran is somebody that I remember watching a couple times back when I was in high school. And when you mentioned it at first, I was like, wait, Joey Beltran, that name sounds so familiar. And dude, that's such a cool relationship. So just tell me a little bit about, how that relationship is and things you've learned from your uncle.
Yeah. So my uncle, like big brother figure, I would even argue and go as far as saying like he is the neighborhood superhero to a lot of people. But when he was first starting off, like, before the UFC, actually before the fighting, my relationship with him and I was always like, I always looked at him like as a big brother. Right. And then, just he had a rough time in his life where he got put in jail. Right. So it was really hard for me to like hang out and be with him as much, one, being in jail, but two, also the relationship between my parents and him. It was a little hard, right? But I still loved him no matter what, as you should. Family, you know what I mean? When he came out, he turned his life around and he got into fighting. And in the beginning, if I remember this story correctly, in order for him to pay his dues for training, he had to do some coaching, cleaning of the gym, and he had to run a class. He didn't have students for a class. So guess who got picked to be his first student? So that's how I got sucked into it when I was a kid. It was probably the best thing ever for me because I just realized that, our life is fragile, and we don't got much time of it. So like my perspective of my life moving forward, I figured that all out at the age of 14. The most important thing that I learned from him, as I got older, this was a guy who did something that only a small percentage of people will ever get to do in their life. And he had to make it happen coming from a very hard place. He just got out of jail. He had no job. He had no money. He barely even had support from his family. And to bounce around and do whatever he had to do to make dues, from selling furniture to being an Amazon delivery driver, that dude still managed to make his dream a reality. And that's something that I take to not just myself, I apply it to my relationship and any type of other relationship I have with people. And that's just a small gist of it. I can talk about Joey Beltran all day, but just to know how early on that this guy has made an impact in my life, it was right there when he got out of jail and he still came back and showed love to me. And I know that people have had some unfortunate horror stories that may have come out of, of a situation similar to his where they were out of jail and they never make that change. He does a good job too, because he can relate to people too of his age, of his demographic, people that might have gotten out of jail too. And he does a really good job influencing them to be like, hey, dude, it's not over until you actually give up. And here we are now. I'm a content creator, and I still preach this guy's beliefs and work ethic to everyone and anybody I meet.
Man, there's so much power in that. And for you, learning that lesson at a young age, it's so cool that he's like, all right, you know what? If you want to do this, you're going to have to clean, you're going to have to coach. And he was like, Tony, let's go.
Yeah. He basically, he brought me in. I thought it was really cool too, because nobody was really doing it at my age at the time. UFC and MMA fighting, it was seen as a barbaric sport, just like how streaming was seen as an unsalvageable career. And look at us now, right? Look at MMA fighting now. And it's so funny because he never judged me for taking this path. I know we'll talk more about it in a second, but of me becoming a content creator, I saw Twitch as being a future, just like I believed in my uncle at the time when he was in the UFC, right? And I knew that Twitch was going to be a thing and be big. But my parents, man, they were so hard on me, and they were like, no, if you're living in our household, you're going to school. You are not playing video games as a career. And man, I wish they didn't stand in my way. I really wish. And like I said, with the work ethic and just determination that I know I had at that time, and I definitely have now, all I can do is be thankful, maybe learn from that experience, and then try to encourage and motivate people that might want to do it now, because they're even then, at that time, would I have made it? I don't really know, because the tools that are available now for content creators were not a thing back then. Maybe it was a blessing in disguise, because if I did spend all my energy at that time, I probably would have never made it, because there is a little bit of luck at that time, because there was a lot of streaming, and I know for a fact a lot of the people that were doing it were either really, really good or really, really entertaining. And I don't know, maybe I wasn't as good or entertaining as I thought.
The younger version of Tony being able to learn those lessons of never quitting on yourself, watching your uncle come out of jail, come back, grind super hard to get somewhere he wanted to be, and not take no for an answer. It sounds like he's the type of person that if he had his mind set on something, he was going to do it. There was nobody that was going to get in his way. Those things that you learned at a young age, and apply them into the content creation space. Talk to me a little bit about how you utilize some of those lessons that you learned about just not quitting on yourself and being consistent and focused and driven. What things in that help propel you forward in the content creation space?
Let's go back to the beginning, right? How did I start? I knew I had a work ethic that if I just put my heart and mind to it, that I will make what I'm trying to achieve become a reality. And I know a lot of people hear that saying oh, if you put your mind to it, you can do it. But this was something that a new skill that I had to learn, was just being able to accept a little bit at the time my shortcomings and skills that I just didn't have, that there's just no amount of brute force or work ethic that you can do to push through a skill that you just do not know. And video editing was the skill I did not know. I can play video games, I can act in front of a camera, but once you got it all together, what do you do with it? That was the hardest part. Taking all these things that I've learned, I would tell myself this all the time. And I know it sounds crazy. My uncle used to tell me too, right? Tony, you train and get punched in the face. You get kicked, you get thrown, you get taken down. And there's always, you've grown up having somebody trying to impose their will on you. What is stopping you from learning something new? Nobody's punching you in the face to keep you from editing. No one's hurting you. And I know it sounds really extreme, but everything in my life, whenever I have a problem, I just imagine my coach is yelling at me, and that he's telling me what are you doing? You're better than that. I try to compare it to training. Anything that I want to learn, I just tell myself man, this can't be harder than jiu-jitsu, surely. Man, this can't be harder than boxing. No one is hitting me. I just got to take my time. And just like any other skill I had to practice, get good at, I need to put time in. Some people, it takes longer than others. You know what I mean? I started this at a much older age, like I said, I was 17, 18 years old. I wanted to do Twitch streaming and all that stuff. Probably would have been easier then, because I have this undying energy battery, where now it's man, I'm a dad. I get tired real quick. It's a little different. So I definitely, time management now is more important. Going back to the original question, a lot of the things that he's taught me, I've learned to take those strong suits of what I have and apply it in an organized manner to be able to be efficient at what it is that I do now. And a lot of that came from scraping my knees, trying to freaking figure out how to be a good editor, because I just had to accept when those moments happen that like, oh, we have a problem, man. I don't let it kill me. Don't let it beat me down. Don't let it discourage me. Don't let it turn me around and go the other way. I really, really, really want to do this. I really, really, really want to learn. Another saying that my uncle used to always say, everybody says they want to be a fighter until it's time to train. People say they want to be a fighter until it's time to diet. People say they want to be a content creator until it's time to edit, until it's time to record, until it's time to, do all the stuff that they don't see in the background. I know you know this. You run a podcast, right? It's way different than just sitting here flipping up a camera. Let's talk. It's a lot of prep that goes into this,
Yeah, this is the easy part.
Yeah, all that stuff I learned. And if it wasn't for those early on experiences and like obstacles that got put before me at such a young age, I know for a fact I would not be here right now. And it's that's something that I'm really thankful for. That I know a lot of people that I've grown up with that I'm still friends with now. I wish, not that they had to be in the gym, but maybe I wish they had a Joey Beltran in their life, Like, and it's really tough. Not a lot of people have that figure that is always like grabbing you by your back and picking you up and saying, no, let's go. You're not done.
And that's why I think podcasts like this are so important. People see you on TikTok, they see you on YouTube, they see you live streaming, and that's the Tony they get to see. They get to laugh, enjoy your content, be entertained. What they don't see is the hours and hours and hours of work you put when the camera is not on you.
Right.
And being a dad, the hours and hours and hours you put in to that. I mean, I have 2 boys of my own, and it's just all of that behind the scenes work is so heavy. And yeah, not a lot of people see that.
Yeah. And I think today's society, it's safe to say to the online society, I mean, like content creation consumers, I'm just going to go with the most recent thing that I've been dealing with, or I've been seeing my friends at least deal with, comment section, brain rot of comments. Of like, this is crazy, man. And I know you guys are kids. I know there's a lot of kids out there that are just on their devices because it's so convenient to say something. When I was talking like that, I'm sorry, I'm gonna say this, you guys. If I talk like that out in public, because there was no social media when I was a kid like that, I'm getting punched in the face. Which is why my uncle probably put me in martial arts, because I'm not gonna lie, as smart and as hardworking I was kind of a little punk still too, because I felt unkillable. Oh, now I know how to stuff a takedown and dodge some punches. Now I'm just you just gave a sword and a shield to a guy who was a menace already. It's not easy. So that's also another thing you got to deal with, right? Like I had friends and family even that have considered making content, and they post little videos here and there, and then the second they get a little bit of a mean comment on TikTok, done. They don't even want to do it. They deleted the app, and they're like, "Tony, how do you deal with it?" I just ignore it. You know what I mean? I just let it sit there.
Water off a duck's back.
Yep, that's exactly what it is. Yeah, that's the best way to put it. It's literally like water off a duck's back. It just doesn't sit there. It's crazy. Like I said, I know it's kids, and I think that one thing that I have developed before my child that I know I have as a skill that will allow me to, I feel like, be unkillable in the content creation space is my patience. I just have a lot of patience, and I know that is something that makes me resonate and be relatable to a lot of my younger audiences, is that I just have the patience and I can understand, and I don't immediately like default to banning them, kicking them. Yeah, it's just whatever you think your traditional streamer, bigger streamer would do, or the mods of that streamer would do. I'll sit there and try to talk with them, be like, hey, what's going on? Patience is such a big thing for when it comes to streaming, whether it's patient with your chat, patient for the results that you get with the hours you put in. Patience is just huge, man. Because no matter how hard you work, it's almost like fishing, man. You just got to be patient and wait, because your time will come. Just keep working.
I love that when you talk about being patient, like fishing. I think about when I was younger, going fishing with like my dad and my grandpa, and I was so impatient. I would always be like, I want this right now. But that's
Really?
cool that you right. I'm like, I'm looking
Did
at
I catch anything? I felt a little tug from the current. Nope, nothing, bro.
Yeah. Nope,
Man.
nothing on there. Throw it back out there. Yeah, between the patience, learning the consistency, having the grit to just continue to push through when it does get tough, when negative comments do come in, when you may not have all the support in the world. Those are invaluable skills that I think awesome that you were able to learn those at a young age, but also continue to use those every single day. Before content creation, I want to step back a little bit and talk about what you did before then, because all these things we're talking about now definitely mattered then as well. I mean, you talk about spending time to launch your own company, and then boom, COVID comes around and had different plans. So talk to me a little bit about what that business was and what happened during those times in COVID and what led you to have to shut your doors.
Yeah, and just to put it in perspective, right, with like how long it took for me to even start my business. First, my business was I had a martial arts program. My uncle being an MMA fighter, I was a student. I've been in there since a young age. So a big thing in the MMA community is to always give back. Give back by teaching, give back even by cleaning, cornering, anything. You are like an important piece to the community. I, after high school, used to work at a bagel store. I hated it. So my uncle convinced me to work for his MMA gym. And it was the same path that I had to go through that he had to go through. I had to start with scrubbing toilets, cleaning the gym. I was not teaching a single person, lining up equipment until one day the kids coach called out sick. And my uncle was working at that gym. And he's like, Tony, you got to cover kids class, man. Coach is out. And I was like, hey, Joey, how about you coach the kids and I'll coach the adults, dude, because they're not going to listen to me. They're kids. At the time, I'm gonna be honest, I actually said, kids are annoying. I don't want to coach them. Okay, so I didn't have that patience developed yet, right?
Yeah.
He looked me dead in the face. And this is actually really important. The best piece of advice for anybody that wants to be a trainer or coach in a gym space and there might be kids present, this is what he said. He looked me dead in the face and he was like, no, if you can't earn the respect of a child, what makes you think you deserve the respect of an adult? And that hit. He's like, most the parents, that's their kids. If you can't show respect to them, they definitely aren't going to show it back to you. This is where it starts. You work here. I promise you'll be the best coach in the city. I promise you. Coach the class. It went terrible. They didn't listen to me. but when I mean they didn't listen to me, they literally didn't listen to me. But hold on, it does get good. The kids came back and told the owner that was the most fun they ever had. It wasn't because I lost control. I was pissed because I was trying to teach and I felt like they weren't listening to me. But my uncle told me, you had them working, though. You had them busy. Did they learn jiu-jitsu? Hell no. Hell no.
Right.
Will they learn eventually? Sure, they will. But the most important thing is that when there were moments that I showed and I learned that I've picked up really quick was to be relatable, right? Be relatable, patience. And then before you know it, I actually took over the kids' class and I never wanted to go back. So that's where it stemmed from. So I started there, right? I know you're like, okay, where did my business start from? I feel like I went off a tangent a little bit, but when I started my own business, the reason why this story was important is because it initially was opened up by coaching kids and then expanded to working with adults. Because the reason why I wanted to work with the youth is because at the end of the day, like they were all going to get older and eventually they were probably going to go to another gym where it was more amateur or pro style of competition level if they wanted to compete. Something that I was really good at that I prided myself in was just teaching them basics and fundamentals, just, and we would go out and mollywop, right? Not overcomplicating tournaments. I started off as a competition gym and believe it or not, for a very long time, I was not getting paid. I just needed people in here to build a reputation. And then I started getting paid. I probably didn't make any money for like 5 years. So how would I make my money? I had to go still work for another gym. I was working while working. You know what I mean? Like I had to make it work. Right. And then finally I got it open and it was up and operating for about in 2019. I remember I started on my own. I believe it was April. And then right around the winter time when the new year hit, pandemic hit. So I wasn't even open for like a full year and I had to shut the doors. And I imagine knowing that this was what you wanted to do before streaming, before gaming, all the crap that I dealt with, being told no by my parents, right? I couldn't do gaming and having to develop like finally this like passion and relationship. I even went to school, something I didn't really want to do. I went to school to be a better coach, to have better understand, have better terminology of the human body, right? And all that money and time dumped in just to get told you can't have a business because of pandemic, I know everybody has their own opinion on it, but when you have police officers going around the city and specifically targeting gyms, knocking on the door, hey, you can't operate, $1,000 fine if you're not closing the next hour. Literally, if you're not closing the next hour, everybody's out. And granted, they're obviously not throwing names under the bus. There were clearly some gyms that were operating just with doors closed, maybe some windows tinted, right? But it was different though because I coach kids, right? The parents had to be extra safe. There was no coming back. There was no coming back, right. And the feeling, the worst feeling of all that was what hurt more than losing the business was calling every single parent and telling them like, I can't. Because there were some that were like, oh yeah, you can come over to the house. We'll pay you to train them. It's not the same. I'm not doing that. It's not what I started. I'm not going to do that. What about online training? Nope. I said the thing that made me the best and like be a respectable coach was the personal connection that I was able to have with the students, with the parents, being honest. There was a lot of like strong relationships that were built up until the point of closing. Even before, there were kids when I was first that first job that I had. The gym was called Blackline Training Center, just for the sake of names. At Blackline Training Center, that first kids class I ever coached, those kids went on to become like full-fledged amateur fighters, collegiate level wrestlers, and they still call me coach to this day. So like knowing that I was able to start something on my own and try to like create that same thing again, but it like I got to say I did it myself. It was literally ripped for me. So like calling all of them and telling them I can't and it's done. The most painful hour and a half I think I ever went through is calling, canceling memberships, for refunding money back, whatever. It wasn't even about the money. It was just about like, man, that's it. And you know, my uncle trying his best to be like, you could do this. It was always shady. Everything at that time, right? Shady. Everyone remembers that. It was like, everything was shady, unregulated. I was like, no, we don't even know if this thing's like this pandemic, like this virus is really killable. And obviously with the news, you either believe it or you don't, right? Or you mess around and you find out. And I wasn't trying to mess around and find out. I wasn't trying to get fined $1,000. It was just so much, man. The whole point is, man, like it took me 5 years of just like trying to develop myself for free in order to be the coach that I wanted to be. And when I finally got there, pandemic hit, and that was hard.
So I think about you having to call those parents, what those conversations must have been like for you. And you already talked about it, like something that you had worked so hard to build. And even before that, like something that you didn't think you could do, which was coach kids. You're like, I'm not about to coach these kids.
Mm-hmm.
But then Joe being like, what makes you think you can coach the kids and have the respect of the adults still if you can't even do it for kids? But then you having to call the families and say, we're closing, we're canceling. And that was a theme for a lot of, I know for a lot of gyms, for a lot of small business owners, for a lot of people, it was so unknown at that time. And like you said, you didn't want to mess around and find out. You were like,
I've always played by the rules my whole life. I know people are going to find that corny and be like, oh, take risks. Like, dude, I've been taking risks to get to where I'm at. Trust me. But I'm the kind of guy that unfortunately there's a place and time to, it's better to ask for forgiveness than for permission, as they would say. There's a time and place for that. This was one of those, especially for me when I'm out of a job, not the time to mess around. Because if I did get hit with a fine or there was something more aggressive than that, that would put my wife and I in a situation to where like I can't pay back, or like even worse, like I just assumed that, man, they'll just lock you up for breaking the rules like that. I was just like, nope, it's over. No, I'm not going to try. And I know it sounds crazy because it goes completely against everything that I just said, but I think it's safe to say that everybody and anybody that had a job or like went through like some crazy like career or financial like flip, right? During COVID, the beginning of COVID, nobody knew how to deal with that. There's no way, like, oh, like you either listened or you didn't, right? Congrats if we've made it out. If you've made it out just fine, not walking the straight line. I did it, and I think I came out fine still. You know, I walked the straight line. Yeah. I was like, oh, this is where I'm supposed to go. All right, let's do it. I'll figure it out when I get there.
There's so much of that, just that kind of ring throughout your story is kind of like you'll figure it out when you get there. And just going from that time when you had to shut your doors and the time that you started doing content creation, what was that middle portion like? Because was there something that, like, I know you talked about you wanting to be a Twitch streamer and playing video games for a job and things like that before you started the gym, but was that still kind of resonating and out like throughout your life at that time? Was it like, hey, I think I'm going to actually pursue this thing? Or were there other things you did in between gym and content creation?
There was an in-between phase for sure. There was immediately, that was the first thing I defaulted to. I went to trying to be a streamer. I told my wife, I think I'm going to try to become a streamer. And My wife did not know what the hell that meant. So I had to explain it to her, and try explaining to your significant other who doesn't know anything about that, hey, I'm about to play video games and stream to people as a career. The question she asked was like, though, well, how do you make money doing it? And when I told her all these things, she asked valid questions. Okay, how are you going to get them to come watch you? And big rookie mistake, I said at the time, oh, I just got to go live and they'll tune in. Okay, but how will they find you? Oh, they'll find me. They'll figure it out. All big mistakes of an early streamer, right? Just hitting live and thinking that it's just going to happen, right?
They'll be there.
No, it didn't. Actually, for a full year, nobody showed up until finally, until my my unemployment ran out, and I was like, okay, I had to get a job. I had to go get another job. So yeah, my first year of streaming in 2019 to 20 completely failed. I got a job as a security officer. I worked that, and during my lunch breaks, I would scroll on Instagram, and there was a friend of mine who DM'd me because he knows that I was streaming or trying to. And he was like, "Hey, dude, you should make some videos and post on TikTok." And I was like, "Bro, I'm not about to post on a dancing app." He's like, "No, post your gaming videos on there." He said, "Post your gaming videos on there, bro." And I was like, fine. Maybe one day I'll make a clip and I'll do it, right? Because I need something to do while on my lunch break. So I played a lot of games, FIFA and stuff like that. And I clipped something, I made it. It was a Call of Duty clip, also was my first clip that I decided to post. I threw it up and it got like 1.2 million views. And I was like, huh, maybe there is something. So then I got addicted to seeing the results and knowing that it was low effort. And I knew that at the time. I was like, this is low effort. What happens if I put more effort into it? What happens if I just had some captions here? What if I showed myself? Would I stand out? And all these things, right? I started picking up from that time while being a security officer, all those lunch breaks and stuff. Instead of me, it wasn't just me sitting there eating, staring at a wall like a bot. I was like eating and like on my phone, figuring out the next strategy of like how to make my video better. Right. Or even sometimes I would make a video while working on my lunch break. I would make some TikToks, and shout out my community. They'll know this too. If anybody is that listens to this and is an OG, they know like I would sometimes stream from my phone to Twitch and do a just chatting stream while sitting in the golf cart. And that's how bad I wanted it. Right. And to develop it. And one thing led to another. After a year of that, actually I had another freak accident. I freaking jacked up my back and fell and had like a work injury. I fell down a staircase. I know it sounds crazy. I fell down a staircase, dude. Lost my balance. They had me in one of those neck braces. I had to go through physical therapy. It was pretty bad. During that time, I was on workers' comp, and I took advantage of that time while I was laying in bed to still figure out a way to edit and still do it, because I told myself if I can't do it now while being at home and in bed, like I ain't gonna do it ever. Like, I have a back injury, so I guess I could any other person that just doesn't have the determination or willpower like I do will have every reason in the book to just not do it. Get to where you want to be. I want to be there. Do I want to be a security officer? No. Do I have to? Yes. Why? I have bills to pay. That's why, So either way, it was a win-win situation. I either make it, or if I don't, whatever it is, I got a job still. I just got to get my back healed up, And after a year of just hammering down, learning the how to edit on my phone, because that's all I had at the time. Edit on my phone, learned the algorithm. I learned how to just have this TikTok etiquette and just be a better streamer and all that stuff. I made enough money to leave the job and go full time in content creation. I made enough to pay my bills, which I think is a big W. Pay my bills. Yeah. If anybody knows anything about cost of living in California, woo, still got to make a lot. So yeah, it ain't cheap. So I made enough on all my platforms, TikTok, YouTube, Twitch, to take the leap of faith. And my wife gave me the thumbs up. And yeah, that literally was what went down. The period between me and closing my business to becoming a content creator, it was about a year and a half of learning. It was not easy neither, because I had to edit on my phone. And again, even at that time, right? AI automated captions did not exist, bro. Yeah. I had to go through and caption every single word, man, on my phone. Imagine just all my gaming
You're
clips.
sitting there.
Yes, on my golf cart. Yeah,
Yep.
exactly. Yeah, just trying to get a quick buck, you know, while making a buck.
So there's two big things that I kind of want to point out in that story. One is when you went from having to close the doors of your gym and you had to talk to your wife and you were like, I think I'm going to become a Twitch streamer and I'm going to go do this thing and make money on there. I love her questions and I love how supportive she was in her questions. It sounds like she's somebody who's very like supportive and challenging in a good way in order to really make you think through what you're doing. And to have a partner in life like that is extremely powerful. So that's the first thing. I mean, that is huge.
You know, one thing's for sure that I'm very lucky about that not a lot of people have is that she never discouraged me. She never talked me out of it. She just asked questions to know how to help me when I had a problem. Because if she never cared to take an interest to figure out how to get the best version of me in this field, I would be screwed. I even right now, I would still be screwed. There's every month she asks me, all right, what's the expenses and income? What'd you do this month? You know, and things that that just go over my head. I just kind of just go about editing and do my things now. But now she knows so much about it. She's been in some videos too that I can confidently say she understands. She definitely understands now, where a lot of people, family members of mine, even relatives, and I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that they don't understand. They just think, oh, he just plays video games. And what did we talk about in the beginning? They don't even know the half of it. They don't know what goes on to prepare for any of these things. They just see what they see when they open up their phones and their app. They see only the finished product. They don't know about the editing, the voiceovers, how many takes it took. Now my wife sees that and she knows I'm on a podcast right now. She knows that these will probably be turned into videos. This is the process, right? And
yep.
And it makes me enjoy this journey a lot more. It definitely makes her like understand and appreciate when I have these like big successes, like a YouTube plaque and I was on the YouTube app. Remember that? I'm sure we'll talk about that later. But like I've had all my achievements. They hit different now, you know, in the house.
Yeah, and for those of you that are out there listening to this podcast, I mean, just really digging in and listening to Tony's story here when he talks about I had to close the doors of my business. I tried streaming for a year to nobody. Nobody was there. There wasn't a ton of people cheering you on. But at the end of the day, when you started to talk about this stuff with your wife and she started to really kind of learn to trust that process in you and you started to you continue to put in the effort, continue to be consistent. You edited from your freaking phone, which is nuts. A lot of people are like, I need to go get a MacBook Pro and spend $3,000.
Yeah, I need a big
all these
setup, all the streaming, all the recording software, microphone, yada yada yada. Nope, I did it on the same phone that you probably have. You know, I made it all happen. I went full time as a content creator on a phone, using a phone only. Yeah, I still edit too. I still edit on my phone sometimes. Yeah, no, I try not to.
It's easier nowadays.
Yeah, it's definitely easier. The only time I really edit on my phone is when I'm like on the go. Like I've already recorded the video, and let's say my wife and I, we got to go somewhere. Like she'll have to go shopping to the store, and I'm like, okay, well, you go in the store. I'm gonna sit in the car and I'm gonna edit this video real quick. You know, kill two birds with one stone. You go out and do what you got to do. I can sit in the car and do what I got to do. I don't have to be home. But I do try not to edit on my phone as much because competition is getting a little more competitive, so the quality of production needs to be up a little more. But these apps still do it. They still do a really good job, right? Like this morning, I did a video, I edited it on my phone. There's no excuse, you know. Like you either want to do it or you don't, and you have to also be willing to learn. I look at where I've made it to now. There's so many and everybody goes through it, but I think that I become more aware of like I don't want to call them failures, but you know what I mean? My learning life experiences. Everybody will have them. I've been hit with all that. What they all have in common is that I did overcome them. I wanted to be a coach. I failed my first coaching session, and then I ended up opening my own business. I wanted to be a streamer. I failed that first year, and then I overcame it and learned how to be a streamer, and now I'm doing it full time. And I don't think a lot of people, time flies by so fast, and if there's anything that like my story can like send, like the message I can send to everybody that is listening that wants to become whatever the heck they want to be, is that I think that if you don't have a shortcoming or failure soon, I think that when it does happen later, it probably will hurt more than you realize. But be aware, be ready, and then pick, stand up, dust off the dirt, and then keep going, man. Let's go. Because that's how it is in content creation, especially. Like, I'll be posting my videos. I'll be like, man, my videos are cooking. Surely one of these are bound to flop. You know what I mean? Like, that's how I look at it now, right? So it's like same thing with life, like businesses. Man, I'm having so many customers. Surely I'm bound to have a bad month. Like, you have to be aware. You have to be ready. You can't think that like there's ever like going to be you're unkillable. I mean, you can't think you're unkillable, but there's always going to be those moments of where like I'm having a low moment right now, and it's okay. It's okay to be there. I look forward to those low moments because the more low moments that I get into now, I try to figure out how to problem solve it so that it doesn't hurt as much or it just doesn't happen as much anymore. That's something that I really like. I do my best to like try to learn from all of those so that I can have more problem solving tools in life, my job, anything.
The message that you want to send to people of go out there and do it. Don't, it's not just sitting around waiting. It's not just sitting in the woe is me and being down in the valley and continuing to be crushed by the boulders that are going to come down off this mountain. And, the name of the podcast is Approach the Climb. And it's like, you have to really approach that climb. You have to get up on that mountain. You have to go, you have to start climbing. You have to take that first step, because if you never do it and you sit down in the valley, you are going to continue to get crushed. People are going to pass you. Opportunities are going to pass you by. You got to start going, and you have to know that, you're going to backslide at times, but at the end of the day, you're hoping that some of those foundational lessons that you learned in life, which you learned of don't quit, continue when things get hard, find out how to make it work. Those things are going to be checkpoints for you. You're not going to backslide past that. You've already learned that lesson. Cool. Now let's progress on to the next thing. And it's so cool to think about your journey like that for me, and just painting the picture of, you learning from your uncle at a young age when you're in his gym, just learning from him. And then you take that and you say, this is what I want to do. And you start to develop some of those things into younger kids as you're teaching them. You start your own thing, and then boom, you have to close your doors for a year. You start this climb again. You're like, all right, cool. I'm going to be a streamer. I'm going to do it. Boom. Nobody's there. You're not getting supported the way that you thought that you were going to be. You're not having all these show outs of people that are in your streams like you have now, but you're able to kind of backslide to that. I'm not going to quit. I'm going to continue on. And so you say, you know what? I'm going to go full fledged into this content creation thing. From being the security guard and trying to do that at the same time, I'm going to quit doing that. And it was a back injury that led to that for you, which for you to be able to progress through that, even the lessons that you learned. When I think about your story, I think about it as somebody who has continued to press on to the goal, no matter what it is that got in their way. And that's such a powerful lesson for people out there to understand. And like Tony said, you're going to fail. You're going to maybe not fail. You're going to learn. You're going to hit these mistakes and pain points where you're going to learn something really valuable. And I was listening to a different podcast, a guy by the name of Alex Hormozy, who's an absolute business genius. And he talks about these two different classes. And it was a pottery class. In one class, the instructor said, all right, your goal is to make one piece of pottery. It has to be the most amazing piece, and I'm going to grade it at the very end of the semester, but your goal is to just make one piece. For the other class, he said, you need to make as many pieces of pottery as you can. Just go crazy. You're going to get graded based on the amount that you make. And at the end of the class, the people who only made one, it wasn't as good as the people who were out there making hundreds of pieces of pottery, because you learn, you mold, you look at your mistakes, and you move on. And it sounds like that's something that you've been able to do throughout your years of doing this content creation thing, and even from a young age of being a coach.
I definitely have made a lot of pots, I guess. No pun intended, because I actually took a pottery class also in college because I needed a creative arts. I did a ceramics class, and shout out to my professor. His name was Professor Yoshi, where before every class, he would make us drink tea. He would teach us the actual like Japanese like preparation of the napkin folding, the preparing the tea. I'm not even kidding. Before, like, it was a 2-hour class, and the first like 30 minutes was preparing tea. It's about being efficient to prepare yourself and set yourself up for success, essentially, was the thing that I learned. That there's always this routine. In order for me to be good at being a streamer, I need to get up and do this A, B, C, X, Y, Z. So even though the tea preparation had nothing to do with it, that tea preparation ended up becoming coffee preparation, man, for me in life. I swear. But like, it was, I'm being, as all jokes aside, like, it prepared me to be a better worker, but be a better like content creator and anything, like knowing that like you can't skip out on prep. You cannot ignore that, right? Even if you think it has nothing to do with it, it absolutely did. It was really cool. I know it sounds funny that we're talking about just, the ceramics and clay class, but like that, I actually took that and I take that stuff. I understand like how important it is to make more, because he kind of told us the same thing. There was a part in our class where he had us make a bunch of cups, a bunch of ceramic cups. At the end of the 6 weeks, you had to present to us your best one, give a presentation on why you think it's your best one. And my reason of getting my A is similar to the same things that I preach now. I said, here's my best cup. And I heard somebody in the back, they're like, that cup's ugly. And I was like, it is ugly. This cup's been through crap. It's been through a lot. This cup went through a lot of trial and error and tribulations, a lot of questioning. But this cup is more than just, this deformed, ugly cup. You know what? It actually stands out amongst everyone else. And it's different. And that not only will it get the job done, but it's going to be the cup that gets somebody through their damn day. Like we had to present it and like make a powerful impact because it was an art class. Dude, my I'm not even kidding. He was crying. My professor was crying.
That's a good speech.
Because I related it to my life. And I said, this cup is literally me. I went through so much to get to this point. I got humbled by my professor on the first day. I got humbled in life before I was already on my way as a coach. And I connected all of it there. And it's so real. And all of this at the end of everything, at the end of the ceramic presentation, at the end of this podcast, I learned how to just appreciate the process of everything, all because, and I'll connect it back because my uncle came into my room one day and was like, you're going to the gym with me. And I learned so much in life at that early, man. And I've applied it then, and it's definitely made me the freaking, I'll call the successful content creator and husband that I am. I know that there are people that are probably far better than me. Their cup might be better than mine, but like I am happy with mine. And that's all that matters.
The way that you're tying that all the way back to the very beginning again, I mean, is just so powerful that sometimes we do need that person in our life to say, hey, get up, go, like we're going, to teach us a lesson. And other times we're able to have those things instilled in us already to where we can continue to push forward. And from me and from, anybody out there that has seen any of your content, we are thankful that you have continued to push on and to be the person that you are today. And so I want to talk a little bit about that while we're closing out. Let's talk about where you're at today. I think the things that you've been through, but I want to know, what are you doing today? What are the efforts that you're putting in now, and kind of where do you see yourself in the future?
I'm trying to get myself to a point where content creating side, I want to be able to have editors to help me. So that requires a little more work, both on the earning and recording side, to be able to pay that out, because editors aren't cheap. And especially if you want a video done right, you got to pay a lot of money. And the main reason is that, like, I know I can already foresee the future. If I don't prepare myself now, I'm probably not going to be able to hang out with my daughter as much. So I'm trying to be better as a content creator, a streamer, an entertainer, being better with my time management to figure out what I have to do so that I don't lose that time with my daughter, lose that time with my wife. So that's what's going on right now. So in order for me to get that stuff, I need to ascend to another level. I need to climb. To another level that I have not yet reached. And it's funny because I very well could just be content with where I'm at now, but I'm not. I don't want to. To me, job is not finished. As in the words of Kobe Bryant, it's not. I'm not done. For me, when is the job done? When I can confidently take 2 weeks off and not worry about where the money's coming from later. Content creation is such a rat race, man. It really is. And you just got to be on it. You got to be on it. And my goal this year is to get to a point where I can hopefully give my editors that I have now like a salary straight up, like just straight up be like, hey guys, I got you, like you got me, you guys been there for me for however long they've been with me, right? And I want to, make them feel special and give them the opportunity to make their thing a reality. Because I know that one of my editors in particular, he does what he edits for me part-time essentially, and I started like boosting how much I pay him, and I just was upfront with him. I was like, hey dude, if we can get our videos to start cooking more, I'm gonna buy you out of the pizza shop. I swear, I'm gonna get you out, and I'll give you a reason to never go back. But that's the goal: being able to grow as a creator, so I can spend more time with my family, and parents too. Anybody really, parents. My daughter mainly. I want to be with my daughter. I don't want to miss those moments.
How old is your daughter already?
She's gonna be 6 months tomorrow.
That's crazy, man. I remember one of the first times I kind of met you was before your daughter, and I felt like that was just yesterday. It's crazy that.
Yeah, I think the last time. I think when I don't know. I think I was just meeting with you and the guys in the call, and I was in a call with we're friends with all the guys with Ty and Swag, and I was sitting there and I was like, man, my wife's due in any minute, and it's crazy. Let's since we're talking about the climb, right? Like even being a parent, that's a new climb, man. And I'm just going with the flow. I'm thankful that I went through the things in life that I'm sure a lot of people will never get to. I rolled with the punches and went, because one of the big questions that was asked to me during that call was like, so how is this going to affect your content creating? And most creators, like I've seen it on Twitter, like people quit. And I don't get that. Like, I get it, I guess. But like, me, with everything I've shared with my life, like I just don't quit. I either adapt or find a solution. Essentially, you have to be pandemic hard to close me out, to make me like not work, and right. You heard it already. Like I have a supportive wife who believed in me, and she knows that. And so like even right now I'm on this podcast, and what is she doing? She's watching the baby right now, so I can be here. It's crazy though, like how time flies though, because I thought at some point during those 6 months that like I would have quit. I genuinely thought about it. Like, what happens if it doesn't work out, Tony? I should have a backup plan. I did have a backup plan. My wife actually said, like, if content creation never worked, the deal was with my wife and I is that I go to the gym every single day, get back in shape, and I try to open a gym again. And I'm okay with that because now I have the editing skills to promote and advertise to do it. So did I ever really lose? Hell no. Maybe for a moment I'm on the bottom. It's like a Rocky scene, right? Except this 10 count's really long. Yeah. This 10 count's going really long. I'm very thankful for the skills and stuff. And it still goes back, man, to like just being able to have a supportive system and to just willing to accept it's all right. I'm getting kicked right now. I'm down, but I'm not out. I'm down, but I'm not out.
That's so awesome. I'm thankful for you being on this podcast. I'm thankful for you sharing your story with us. And for those listening out there, if you're down in the valley, if you were forced to close a business, if you're in between careers, if you're about to have a kid or you have a kid and you don't know what to do as a parent, whatever it might be, whatever walk of life you are in, continue to press on. I need you to like grab Tony out of this podcast right now and just, if he was in your ear, he would say, let's go, push on. You know what you got to do. Don't take no for an answer. So Tony, thank you for being that voice to our listeners. And for all of you out there, I hope that you were able to get a lot out of this podcast. And if you were, make sure that you share it to a friend that might also be in this situation. So whatever it is that you got going on out there as a listener, make sure that you are doing your best to continue on and not take no for an answer. So again, Tony, thank you very much for being here. And from Tony and me to all of you, we wish you the best on your personal climb to success.